Hey guys, Cyphus here. So today's episode is with Maut from Moonduck TV. He's another great representative from the Moonduck Studio. He is I can't stress enough what an incredibly nice guy he is, and and a talented caster to boot. We talk a little bit about it. He was casting at TI6. It took a brief break, as he mentions in the show, due to an illness, but he's getting back into it. He was on the panel for a lot of the elimination mode stuff that they ran. You probably hear him on the What the Duck podcast that Moonduck does, that Zyori hosts. He used to do a podcast, or we participated in a podcast, Much Ado About Dota, years back. Just a super nice guy. He's been involved in the Dota community. He has worked hard to get to where he is, to do what he's doing. He's always focused on improving. He offers some really incredible advice for people that are looking to get into Dota 2 content creation. So if that's something you're interested in, definitely hang around and give it a listen. Can't stress enough how much I enjoy this guy, and it's always a pleasure to talk to him. And we are super thankful for having him around in the Dota 2 community. So great interview. You're going to hear a lot of cool stuff, learn a lot more about Maut. We delve into his personal life, his background, getting involved with Moonduck, all that good stuff. So you've got a treat ahead of you. So you can find him and follow him on Twitter at MautDota. That's MautDota. And follow the Moonduck guys over at Moonduck TV, the whole crew. They're all great. So shout out to those guys, and I hope you guys enjoy the show. You are listening to a DotP One-on-One. Pyrian Flax, welcome to the show, sir.
Hello.
That is Casey Atchison. Welcome to the show, Casey.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Welcome, Sunsfan.
Hello, friends. It's been a long time.
Maut, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me once again. Very excited to be here.
Austin Capitalist Walsh, welcome to the show, Cap.
Thank you very much, man. It's good to be back.
Special guest, Sir Action Slacks. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you for having me.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to another DotP One-on-One. As usual, I am Cyphus, and today I'm joined by another fine representative from the Moonduck organization. We're always glad to have him on the show, Maut. Welcome to the show again, Maut.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for inviting me back. It's always a pleasure to be here with you, DotP guys, and yeah, it's good.
Yeah, actually, even though you didn't get to hear the intro, you're one of the clips we played of previous interviews. So I was told that I'm like stroking my own ego by playing that intro because we introduced all the people we had, but I thought that it made us sound, legitimate, like we actually have good Dota 2 guests on. But
So, now I feel even more special, man.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah, you should.
Making my ego bigger than it needs to be, let me tell you.
So I don't think we've had you on the show since TI6. You got the invite to TI6. That was awesome. I remember, for some reason, vividly you casting like I want to say DC Wing series.
Yeah, it was that series.
Yeah. And man, that was a killer series. It was it was the start of DC's kind of incredible run into into that tournament, and that had to be kind of exciting, right? That you were there because you guys have a loose association, or a pretty decent association with DC, obviously, with Sunsfan.
Obviously, yeah. I'm pretty lucky to be able to talk to the DC guys. I used to be able to talk to them pretty often. We were going to a lot of different lands back last year. It was like the summit and all that stuff like that. But yeah, no, it was super exciting. It kind of was all a blur, to be honest with you, to do it, and I was glad to be a part of it, and it was so much fun. I've kind of had like a bit of a break since then. I haven't really done much. I've kind of been focusing on my health and stuff like that to get back to where I was before.
Anything major going on there?
Or? I just had an illness that I was dealing with back in right after TI into September and October. I had to go to the hospital for a couple of days. It's not something I really want to talk about, to be honest with you. I mean, I just don't want to go into too much depth about it, but from that period, right after the Manila Major, from that period on to maybe October or November, kind of, I was just not feeling the greatest. My health wasn't in a great position, but I was determined to do the best that I could at TI, regardless of any health issues I had. But yeah, I mean, it's still crazy thinking about it. It was a nuts experience, and I can only be so lucky if they were ever to even think about me or consider me again.
Yeah,
it was good though. It was fun.
I know I remember that series. Were there any others that you were able to cast while you were there?
There were plenty of them. There were plenty of really good Dota 2 series. David and I, LD and I did all of the group stages. We cast a handful of games. We did a lot of the on-stage games as well. And he was great. He really helped me out a lot, to be honest with you. I was still so nervous because it was the first big time I was going to be on stage during TI, and I think that kind of, I think it kind of shows in some of the casts. And he really helped me kind of just figure out what I needed to do. It was kind of a strange situation to have both of us being in the same kind of casting pair, but it ended up working out okay. It was pretty good. I think my inexperience was definitely problematic though for a lot of the games. So, but you can't really ever complain when you get to cast with LD.
No.
And it was based off of something we did at the Manila Major. When LD and I cast a series, we got a really good best of 3 series that was really good. So I think that's why Val was thinking, okay, we get 2 hype casters, it could work out pretty well. But it was good. It was nice to be there.
LD can fill that analytical role pretty well too. So you guys definitely played well off of each other. He's pretty flexible in his ability to either turn analytical or turn hype. So that's. Yeah, that's always awesome. So all right. So we're not going to talk about Dota for a second because I was saying for a minute or before the show, I don't think we've ever really delved into your personal background.
Oh man.
So where did you grow up?
I was born in Mountain View, California, which is very, very close to Sunnyvale. It's like in the Bay Area type of place. I lived there for about 6 years, and then on my 6th to 7th birthday, we moved to upstate New York, very close to Albany, about 20 minutes away from the Albany area. Of course, Albany, the state capital of New York, and we lived there from pretty much the age of 6 to maybe a year and a half to 2 years ago. In this place called Clifton Park, which is super suburban. It's like one of the most suburban places I've ever been in my life. It was a nice place to be raised, but it was a bit suffocating at times.
Yeah,
so.
A good place to be from, maybe not a good place to go to.
Yeah.
Does that feel like home though? Is that where you'd say home is at this point?
Yeah, I think. Well, I'd say so. I think home for me, like when I think of my family, I think of my parents, even my brother. I think of Clifton Park, and that's where if I were to ever have any issues here, where I'm living now in Colorado, I would go hang my hat at home in Clifton Park, and all my friends are there too. A lot of my friends are still in Clifton Park. So yeah, for sure, it's definitely my home. I think, other than where I'm at now.
Did you go to college or anything? Did you pursue higher education?
I did for a little bit. When I went to college, I wasn't really sure about what I wanted to do, and I think that's why I'm at the path that I am now. I went to Hartwick College, which is in Oneonta, New York, for 2 years, where I swam on the college team. I was swimming since I was 10, and in different teams and stuff like that. So I wanted to try to swim in college, and that turned out to be a pretty, I think, poor choice because I couldn't focus on my studies and swimming at the same time. It was so much work, even for a Division III school. Division III is there's Division I where you get all the athletics are on the TV and people watch and stuff like that. Division III is a smaller. Well, there's a lot more Division III schools, but it's less professional, I guess you could say. So I swam there for 2 years. I dropped out in February of my second year, and then I went back home and I transferred to Albany, where I spent a little bit of time there. But I ended up dropping out of that as well. I really just didn't know what I wanted to do at that point in my life. It was a very interesting time period for me.
What were you pursuing while you were there?
I switched majors so often, but at Hartwick it was mostly biology. And then I was like, well, maybe I could, pursue history or psychology, and it was 3 or 4 different fields that I was into. Eventually, I ended up going to a community college about 1 or 2 years before I started casting, and I started getting into computer science, and if I had to go back to school, I probably would end up back in computer science, and I think that would probably be the best place for me. But I honestly just didn't know what I wanted to do when I first got to Hartwick.
Yeah, I feel you. I switched majors 2 or 3 times myself, and
Right.
Roland, the co-host who was on last time you were here, I think he may have switched majors 12 or 15 times over the course of his college career.
Well, that is nuts. Let me tell you.
I feel you. I mean, college is supposed to kind of be that moratorium where you get to kind of experience and
Right,
experiment, what you want and try to figure out what you want to do. I mean, was it, at that time was getting into casting? I mean, was that going on in the background? Was it something you were interested in at that time?
not really till last year when I was at the community college I was going to, which was HVCC, Hudson Valley Community College, again, very close to my house. Honestly, I was super into Dota at that time, and I had attempted to try to cast. Like I remember I did the TI2 qualifiers, not like through Valve, but through my own like casting on Dota TV. And eventually I was doing that for a while, and I was like, you know what? There wasn't ever an idea of me like saying, oh, I'm going to do this professionally. I'm going to do this full time. I was just like, let me give this a shot. Let me see how it goes. Post some of my casts onto Reddit, see what people think about it. And people really enjoyed, I think, what I brought. I was still not very good at the time. I mean, it's when you're first year casting, you're still not in a good position. But I think a lot of people were like, okay, well, this guy's pretty good. And then I got hired by an organization called ECAL, which is this old tournament back in the day. It was an old North American tournament. They were planning on putting a broadcast team together. There's me and another guy named J4Y, and he's actually stopped casting since then, I think. I haven't talked to him in a while. But we got together as a casting duo, and it went pretty well. But it was never like, there was one point where I was like, okay, I can start doing this full time. And that was actually, like, I was still in college, but I got hired by another organization named Neo Dota. And Neo Dota was Spitwads, who's the admin creator of NA Dota, the forums. He was the creator of Neo Dota as well. And at the time, he had Draskell, he had me, I think he had another caster as well coming up, and he was trying to just get us into some tournaments. And we got a lot out of that organization. And once that happened, I went to TI3, and I really was like, okay, enough of this college stuff. I'm going to just try this out. And I don't even remember how I talked to my parents about it, because I knew they weren't going to be happy with it. Like,
yeah, actually, it's funny you bring that up, because that's something I always ask people on the show. Because it's when I tell my parents what I'm doing, especially my grandmother. My grandmother's probably the best, because she's kind of aware of what I'm doing, but she calls it my pod blog. I'm always going to do that pod blog, whatever that is.
Right.
And they definitely, there's always a little bit of like, well, you're ever going to make money doing that, or are you ever going to? It's like, yeah, maybe eventually.
But it's hard to believe for a lot of them. They're like, you actually doing this full time? Yeah. Are you making any money off of it? Like, what are you doing? And the best is, like, when I was first starting out, my parents were like, you could tell they're like, our son is not making money. He's doing some stuff on the internet. And then you start making money on it. And then all of a sudden my mom's always like, oh my gosh, Travis is out in LA casting a Dota 2 tournament. He's always over in Sweden and stuff like that. So it's always nice. But then the flip side is that I went to my brother's wedding actually a couple of days ago, about a week and a half ago. And everybody came up to me, and I'm the best man, of course. And everybody came up to me and was like, so how's that gaming thing going for you? And you're just like, huh? Oh God.
Yeah. So how did your parents respond initially? I mean, what was that conversation like?
I mean, I can remember my dad just being like, listen, I'm all for it if you can make money, but you have to understand that you need to be able to support yourself. Otherwise, you're never going to get out of the house and be able to do what you want to do. And my mom was, I think, just about the same way. We didn't talk about it a lot because I think it was a lot of source of frustration for a bit. But I actually, I started getting paid pretty quickly in comparison to other casters. You know what I mean? Like, I had maybe a couple of months where I wasn't getting paid for any gigs. And then all of a sudden, like, my Twitter profile would grow, and I'd start getting money from tournaments, and I would get, like, my first real year of casting, like, I got invited to the TI3 qualifiers at the BTS Hub, which was a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
And that was when they were like, oh, you're getting flown out for a Dota 2 tournament. Okay, then, well, you're fine. Also, that year was MLG Columbus as well, and I was on the panel for that a handful of times. I didn't do very well. I was still very nervous at that point, but they like, that was when my mom really started getting supportive of me. And my dad was still kind of like questioning it, but they were. I have to say they were very supportive. They weren't ever trying to stop me from doing it. The only thing they would say is they would be like, all right, have you considered your other options though? Like, what are you going to do if this doesn't work out? Which is, of course, any good parent would say that. Right. So. Yeah, it worked out pretty well.
I mean, it's understandable. I always get where especially the generation before ours that's kind of looking at this as unpioneered territory or an unpaved way, because I mean, right. It is. I mean, I'm sure you can attest as much as we can. Like, it's the Wild West in esports. Oh, yeah. I mean, it's. If I had a nickel for every, like, podcast I saw start up and then stop, or every caster I've seen make like a blip and then kind of just fade away, like, there's
There's a lot.
Yeah, and it's understandable, and it's not something that everybody necessarily gets to do just because they want to. And even if you do get to do it, or even if you do want to do it, the only way you'll ever have a shot, the only way you'll ever hit that break is through sheer persistence. And that persistence is so frequently unrewarded. And so I mean I understand it, but at the same time we're also kind of on the cutting edge of what kind of seems to be a new industry. It's not even just that it's Dota. It's not even just that it's video games. Like the esports as an industry is in its infancy still, and I don't know. I as much as I understand their position, it's also really exciting to be part of kind of this new
It's an amazing
wave.
industry. We are essentially at the forefront, as you've mentioned. And because we're at the forefront of this industry, we get to see a lot of other industries kind of come alongside with us. They like start to develop, like we're like, because we're such on the cutting edge, we get to see different games, different kind of software, different streaming type things. Like Twitch just introduced this new IRL thing, which is very interesting. So like it's all so cutting edge. The one thing that I do have some issues with, but there's nothing I could do about it. So this is just going to sound like me complaining. Is I think a lot of a caster or somebody's success in Dota 2 is based off of the public perception of that person, regardless if it's true or not. And in a lot of the points, sometimes they're pretty correct about the assumption they make. But there are some instances where it's just like, you maybe don't listen to it. You maybe listen to one cast out of the last 20 you've done, or listen to one thing you've done in the last 20, and all of a sudden people just get an idea based off of what you are. So I think in that regard, I think the public perception is a bit rough on people, and I feel like we have a long way to go in terms of that. But you're right, though. I mean, like, other than that, like, it's super cutting edge. It's super exciting to be a part of. Like, the Moonduck House is honestly one of the most fun things I've done. It's just like we do so much stuff, and even when we're not doing stuff, we're still hanging out and having a good time. So it's amazing, to be honest with you. Well,
and that public perception element is so strange, and I feel like it's never. I feel like it's not properly analyzed by most. In that, if I watch Maut cast, if I sit down and I watch you cast, and I'm older, I'm 30, so when I hop on Twitch and watch a pro Dota match, I don't pay attention to the Twitch chat. I don't go and post on Reddit and comment about the match afterwards. I watch it, and if I enjoyed it, and maybe this is on me, and maybe it's on all of us who watch these matches and watch these casters and enjoy it. And maybe we need to be more active and be more vocal. But odds are, if we enjoy it, I'm not gonna go to Reddit. Yeah, and I'm just not gonna say anything. So this vocal minority, where I've had a lot of people come on here and talk about kind of the toxicity of the Dota 2 community and oftentimes other gaming communities as well. But and even though, I admit, like, I bash on it occasionally on this show. I often find myself wondering if it's not just that element of the vocal minority. If it's,
I think you're right,
and I hope so. I really hope so. I would love to believe that the majority of it is just that minuscule portion of the population that is willing to take the time to go to Reddit and throw up a shit post, or to spam Twitch chat with with some form of immature criticism. Because I don't know. I mean, are you that way? Do you? I mean, when I watch something, I just, if I enjoy it, I enjoyed it, and I got what I wanted out of the product. And I guess I don't necessarily. And now I'm having this epiphany, I guess, here on the show, like, maybe I need to start doing that. Maybe when I watch a Mautcast, I need to go to Reddit and be like, Maut just fucking killed it. Screw everybody who hates him. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
Well, I would be appreciative of that, but I don't think the onus doesn't have to be. I'm not saying like people should go out and they should start posting on Reddit, be like, oh my God, this person's amazing, or this person's doing really well, because then again, it's also an opinion, and then I don't know, it kind of gets a little crazy. Not to say that, again, if I see that post, if I see that tweet, I love it, and I do get. I'm not saying that I don't get those tweets a lot, like those positive, you did a great job tweets. I do get them almost every day that I do a cast, just from people that have watched me, for a long time. But it's also just like, it's not necessarily like, oh, I feel terrible that this is like, that they didn't like the cast, or man, I wish they liked it a lot. But the real feeling is like, if I see a shit, like not even a shit post, but like a hate post on Reddit with my name in it, I know that like I feel like my stock in a Valve tournament has gone down. Like I might miss an opportunity at a Valve tournament because of that Reddit post. Now, I'm not trying to make assumptions about how Valve invites, but I feel like there is a very big public perception based off of inviting casters and how it works. I think it's very, 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 very based on Reddit perception.
Yeah.
So it's something that like I have to like just kind of think about, okay, well, you don't know if this is really going to affect you that much. Get yourself back in a positive mindset and continue to cast. And that's something I didn't know previously, like last year, like I was doing a lot of positive stuff last year, but when the negative things would come out, it would still be like, it would really bother me. But as of right now, I'm doing much better in that regard. But I don't know. It's a tough thing to think about. Again, I would appreciate more positive comments, but I'm not going to be like,
you don't
I
wanna,
need it.
We'll shill for them for you. All right.
Yes. Excellent. Perfect.
So when did so let's get back to your background a little bit. When did you get into gaming? What were some of the first games that drew you in?
I've been gaming since essentially I've been born, for the most part. I was born in 1990, so I'm 26 currently. And at age 3, the first thing I really remember was my dad putting me on his lap. We had a computer right next to us. It was like this old Power Mac. And he just turned on this game called Prince of Persia, which is this old 2D platformer game that was one of the most popular games at the time. And I remember playing that and just like, obviously I was a kid, so I couldn't, well, I was 3 years old. I was pretty much an infant, a toddler, but I couldn't figure out how to play it. It really caught my attention. It was just like, this is amazing. And then the next couple of games after that, was my brother and I, my brother's 4 years older than I am. We would play Sonic the Hedgehog on our Sega Genesis all the time, like old Sonic games, Sonic 2, Sonic 3, that kind of stuff. And that's really the first memories I have of video gaming. And then I also had a lot of friends too. One of my brother's friends in California was a huge gamer. We played Warcraft, and that was where I got really into PC gaming. We had Raiden as well. There's some really good games that I played. So very early on, I guess, is the long answer to that question.
Yeah. So when did Dota kind of come into the mix for you?
I remember I wasn't one of the people that played Dota 1 that often. I didn't play it, and I wasn't part of that group of people. At that time, I was still in Warcraft 3 for sure. I was into Diablo. I was into WoW, a lot of Blizzard games, stuff like that. But around like 2008, 2009, I would have LAN parties at my house, and my friends would come over, and they would be the big Dota players, and we would install it, and we would play it, and we'd have a really great time. But I would always do dumb shit I'd be like, listen, I'm sniper. I need the most auto attack damage as possible. Clearly, that's how you win this game, is just getting damage. And so I'd buy like 3 blades of attack and no regen and go to lane with it. And I don't know, something ridiculous. It was something dumb at the time, and it was just like I had no idea what I was doing. But around 2011, I got a Dota 2 beta invite, which was essentially right after TI1, I think, or around that time. And I played it with some of my WoW friends, and I learned very quickly. They were like, yeah, you're garbage, but don't worry. You're going to get better. And I was like, okay, cool.
Yeah, that's encouraging at least. So, I mean, what game besides Dota has really like hung around? Because Dota is one of those games that, and especially obviously with people creating content in the community like you are, obviously Dota is something that really hangs on. But I mean, was there another game that really stuck with you that maybe drew your attention the way that Dota does?
Going back to other games, I definitely had some big games that really impacted my teenage years, my childhood even, and who I am today. I think also, I mean, it sounds kind of weird, but Counter-Strike 1.5 into 1.6 was the 2 games that I played, on the one game, I suppose, that I played from like ages 11 to 18. Essentially what happened was my brother came home. He had gone to a LAN party. I'd never been to one at that time. I was 11 years old, and he brought his computer back with full of copies of games on it, and I would play like Quake 3 Arena, and then I found Counter-Strike, and I would try to play it, and then I would realize that, hey, I keep getting kicked off because someone else is using the same CD key.
Oh, yeah.
So eventually I had to go buy my own copy of Counter-Strike, which is right around 1.6 came out. And it was pretty great. I joined clans. I was in like 2 or 3 clans when I was like 11 or 12 years old. It was a lot of fun. Also around that time, I got into World of Warcraft, and I still play WoW occasionally to this day. I'm like on and off. I'm currently playing now, but it's only like a 2-day-a-week guild that I log on every 2 days and play for like maybe an hour or 2, and then I just log off, and I get to hang out. We actually people have probably heard this already, but we had a guild at the beginning of this new expansion. WoW, it's called Iron Talon, a guild I created along with Fogged, Z Freak, Merlini, K-Poptosis, and a Coddle guy, and we all would play for like hours on hours, and they've all gone back to Dota. And, I mean, I play it occasionally, so it's starting to die out, but we still have some good times. People occasionally still log on, and we say hi to each other and stuff like that. It was just nice to have when we were, when we weren't at an event, and I could talk to Fogged and Ben, Giannis and Ben. It was just nice to have. So,
yeah, for sure. So does creating content for Dota, I mean, because you're, even when you're not casting, obviously, you're doing some other stuff there around Moonduck, and I know I've seen you on What the Duck a few, at least a time or two, maybe even more. So, I mean, when you're creating content, does that get in the way of your time to play Dota? Does that interfere with your ability to do that?
Not really. I kind of like the way I approach Dota is like there are some days when I'll just be like, and then there'll be other days where I'll just grind 10 pub games out or something like that. So a lot of the time when I'm creating Dota content, I'm casting, it's just like, I think that actually makes me want to do Dota more, play Dota more. But a lot of the time it doesn't bother me that much. I'm perfectly okay with just playing 1 or 2 games a day, honestly. And that's what I try to do. And I try to play more party than solo. As well, which is something that I know, like Andrew he plays a ton of solo games. Yeah. And he's been back and forth in terms of his MMR, which we're kind of close to each other. But like, it's different where I'll want to play with somebody and sometimes want to play with him and he's just like, nah, I'm going to play solo. So, but I don't know, man, I guess not really. I mean, Dota, when I cast Dota, I get really into like wanting to play Dota, but that's like, of course that's going to happen, I guess. Of course.
Do you feel like watching those pro games and casting in pro games has made you a better Dota player?
Absolutely, for sure, 100%. I'm still not in the best place in terms of like I could get better. I think every Dota caster can get better at their job. But before I casted, I really had no grasp on what was going on. And it also, if I have a good co-caster as well, a very knowledgeable co-caster, I get even better. If I'm casting with Draskell or Trent Pax, I find myself actively getting better at the game just based off of asking the questions. And like, it's a way to kind of have coaching without actually having coaching, if you know what I mean. Like, I don't have to go to Purge and be like, hey, listen, what do I need to do? If I play a pub game with him or if I watch a Dota cast with him, I'm automatically going to get better at the game. So it's pretty nifty, It's pretty great.
Yeah. When you do get to play, what role do you prefer?
Usually the one, surprisingly enough.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I can play anything. I like playing cores, though. I like playing one position a lot just because, like I said, I'm an old World of Warcrafter, and World of Warcraft for me is all about raiding, which is all PvE. Mm-hmm. I like PvP, don't get me wrong. But when I'm playing carry, I can focus on hitting creeps and like item builds and stuff like that. And like when I do come to a fight, I hope to have a big impact. And but it depends on the mood I'm in, honestly. Like there are some days where I'll want to be an initiator or some like offlaner and just have that kind of responsibility to go in fights. Other days I want to just be able to ward and kind of have vision battles and stuff like that. But what I find myself going back to most often is the one position for some reason or another, even though I'm not the best at it.
Do you have any favorite heroes in that role?
In the one position, off the top of my head, I like playing AM, but I don't think not right now. It depends usually. Like recently, honestly, like my favorite heroes change based on the day. Yeah. Like I played Juggernaut today, and I had a great time with it. Yeah, I like Jug a lot.
Well, and he seems like he's not going to be left over in this current meta. I'm with you. But if I could play AM every time I played the one position, I would do it. But
oh yeah,
he feels so underpowered in the current meta. I don't know. I semi hate the goddamn jungle changes because of it.
Oh yeah, I can see that. But sometimes and sometimes there are days when when I play in the one position, I want to be able to fight earlier on instead of just farming like crazy. Like if I'm playing an Ursa, if I'm playing Jug, even Luna, start rotating with her ultimate and stuff like that. But I'm sure I'm missing something important off the top of my head. But as in terms of heroes. But again, I'll play whatever based on the game. I probably this Jug game I played earlier with Purge, I probably should not have played. It was a 77-minute Jug game where I played the Juggernaut and Purge was the Zeus, and we were up against a Deuce, Omni, and a Batten. And I'm like, probably shouldn't have picked Jug here. We somehow won that game, which was pretty amazing. But it's those types of games that really get me going when it comes to Dota 2.
Yeah, we our stack went up against Purge a couple of weeks ago.
Oh yeah,
and he squished us.
yeah,
Us
that
bad.
sounds right. He's gotten way better. He was already good to begin with, and he's already up in terms of his MMR. It's crazy.
Oh yeah, it was terrible. I think I threw out like a 250 coin bet.
Ooh, that's the rough one.
Just to
honestly,
see, because it was just worth the story. I mean, if I won 500 coins off of betting against Purge, I mean, that's one I'll just be telling everybody in every pub I ever get into.
Yeah. And it's like, for me though, I just throw out those coins, and I don't even like remember if like I win or lose. Like a lot of the time, I'm just like, here you go. I don't know why. Like I probably should keep more control of them, but sometimes you gotta do it.
Yeah, for sure. So when another thing I wanted to ask you about was the 7.0 update, and obviously now we're in 7.03, but
right.
7.0, I mean, it represented, at least for me, the biggest, what felt like the biggest change to Dota maybe ever. As far as just the way that I had acclimated myself to the game.
Right.
We were seeing huge map changes. We were seeing respawn timers, in all the neutral camps, as we touched on earlier with the AM problem. But that was drastically changed. And on top of that, the loss of stats and the addition of talents. What was that like as a caster, seeing that happen? was it mind-boggling?
We were all expecting it, and we had heard some rumblings because in the casting industry, nothing is really kind of kept a secret, I feel like. But we didn't hear too much. We didn't hear about the talent changes and stuff like that. It was funny. We were actually flying back from Boston. I was on an airplane, and I decided I wanted Wi-Fi. And so I got on my phone, and I remember the patch came out, and I was so interested in reading it. And then all of a sudden it's in Chinese, and you can't I'm like, oh, my God. I even have a tweet. I'm like, I'm 20,000 feet up in the air reading a Chinese website about a video game. What a world we live in. It's crazy. And that was kind of how I felt about the entire thing. I got home, I read all the patch notes, I read all the changes, and I was just like, this is insane. This is not even Dota anymore. And I didn't really know how to feel about it. I was looking to other people to see their thoughts on it. But I could confidently say after I've played a lot of the new patches, 7.0 to 7.03, I love the changes. I love the talents. I think it makes you way more interesting in terms of like unique builds and stuff like that. You could go in different ways. I think they could even go and be more unique in terms of the talents. So that way it's like you have even crazier stuff, but that might be too much to ask for. But as a caster, for a long time, you're hovering over those talents and just trying to find out, okay, well, what are they going to get next? And that was a lot of the casts for a long time was just, okay, well, he's got this. What does he pick up now kind of thing?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I love the changes. I wish they would add more stuff to the game, but I know how long it takes. Like even Monkey King to be added to the game we'd heard rumblings about that for a long time.
Yeah.
And it didn't come until obviously TI. So it was great. I'm excited about where Dota's headed, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Was it difficult to? I think we had Android on a while back, and she was saying that she more or less like made flashcards of everything that
she
that
did
changed.
actually. Yeah, I saw those.
I mean, do you have to go through that level of prep work yourself? Do you feel like or do you just kind of do it more organically?
Well, it depends. I could see Annie doing that. I'm sure it's a great idea, but for me, for me to become a better caster, it's a lot of just casting and also like listening to my old casts and watching Pro Dota as much as you can. So that was kind of my game plan, was just okay. Eventually I'll learn the talents just based off of casting alone. And so far it's been an okay plan. I definitely could use, I probably could use those flashcards in all honesty, because you can't really remember them every time. But you just got to play too, I think also. You got to play, you got to watch, you got to cast. But I don't, I think her doing that is definitely a good idea. It's just, I think I'm not the type of person, to be honest, that could do that. I don't really have the attention span to have that going on, so.
Yeah, I understand. I couldn't see myself doing that either. Of course, I don't think I'd ever make a decent caster. So I at least have that. You would be surprised, sir.
You got a good voice, man. Trust me.
So have you ever had just an ultra frustrating challenge along the way? Like, what have been the most frustrating challenges as you've come up as a caster?
There was a time back towards MLG Columbus where I had 2 job opportunities going for me back in the day. I think I've talked about this beforehand. This might be the first time I talk about it, though. I don't know. But essentially, BTS was looking to expand. and they were looking to get another caster. And they were looking between Zyori and myself. And then we were also competing for another job, which was the MLG job, which paid what I thought was supposed to be much better and was also located closer in New York. And my parents, they saw this MLG job and they thought, okay, well, this looks much better for you. It's not in LA. We would love to have you nearby. We definitely think you should take this job. And based on my thought process being close to New York and based on my parents' thought process, I thought, okay, sure. And so I was really, really vying for that MLG job. And I learned later on that the job was not there anymore. Something ended up happening. And so by that point, when I tried going back to BTS, they had already hired Zyori. And so that really and I felt like I needed that. I felt like I needed that studio behind me one way or the other in order for me to kind of be successful, which later I've realized, the studio is helpful, but you can make your own success. But at that point in time, it became like, man, you're getting hired, you're thinking about getting hired by BTS as their expansion is coming, as their kind of their growth and seeing how amazing they are in terms of an organization and what they can do and provide. And you kind of miss out on that. And it gets a bit frustrating because you feel like you should be maybe ahead, like a year ahead of where you currently are. But I came to realize that it was sort of a blessing in disguise, because then I kind of learned how to cast and do my own thing and kind of get involved in my own way. I'm still trying to, make a personal brand, but and of course BTS helped me immensely. Even when I wasn't working for them full time, they were an organization that really, really did what they could for me and helped me in every single way possible. MLG I didn't really get to work with again. So, it was a bit upsetting that I didn't get that job, but that was really one of the biggest challenges, other than just constantly sort of, I'd say, validating yourself and just thinking, okay, well, I'm doing a good job casting and I'm doing a great job. And that's, it's, it can be tough sometimes.
I mean, MLG, though, they've kind of stepped away from Dota, it seems,
right,
moving forward, right? Or, I mean, I at least I recall reading that somewhere.
Yeah, that sounds correct, honestly. And I think maybe it has something to do with them getting purchased up by Activision Blizzard.
Oh,
which
right.
was a while ago.
Yep.
I don't know if that's really it. I'm just kind of guessing here. I don't.
Yeah.
I know
it sounds right. It sounds about right.
So,
do challenges like that ever? I mean, have you ever felt like quitting because of those things? I mean, has that thought ever crossed your mind? Or
yeah. I mean, it's definitely crossed my mind, but I think you would be hard pressed to find another caster that didn't have that thought cross their mind, unless they've just had straight up success for their entire career, which there's been a few people that have had that type of success. But for a lot of the casters like myself, I think that people have definitely thought about, okay, well, maybe I should just take a step back. And the reason I don't want to do that is because, number one, I think I'm doing a very good job. I think I had a bit of a rough spell with my illness right after TI, but I think I've done a lot better in terms of the commentary that I've provided recently, especially in the last couple of weeks, last couple of days even. So I feel like I'm better now I'm getting better than I've even been previously. So it's a good place to be in. It's a good mindset to be in. And also, the other thought process is, and this is pretty big too, is, well, what am I going to do if I stop this? I'm still making money. I'm kind of sort of living, pretty well, and it's going all right. But what happens if I don't end up having this work out for me, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it's the kind of thought process of, the unknown is a bit scary, and where do we move from here?
Well, and there's got to be a driving passion to do it too.
Oh,
that
absolutely,
helps overcome it. So
yeah, and that's what I was going back to, where I feel like I'm better than I even was. And like I talked about before, I love Dota. I love watching Dota. I love playing Dota, and that passion always rekindles itself. And then I always think about too, like, maybe is there another chance I do another game besides Dota? Is there another chance I do anything else besides Dota? In the esports or even the game industry. And I think about that from time to time. I think that's more likely than me ever quitting Dota. I think I'd always do Dota, but if I could do something on the side with the game that I actually really enjoy, then, for example, like, I'm really into speedrunning a lot of the time.
Oh yeah.
So I've always thought about maybe doing something like hosting a commentary for a speedrun. I personally speedrun that Prince of Persia game I was talking about earlier.
Oh, okay.
That's the game I speedrun, Prince of Persia 2. And I have a lot of fun with it. And it's not just speedrunning. I've talked about WoW rating, obviously, is a big part of my life and stuff like that. And other games like Counter-Strike, although there's no way to break into that scene essentially anymore. I think it's pretty much all filled up. so there's less thoughts of me quitting, but more me of be like saying, okay, well, what else can I do with this?
Yeah, branching out into other arenas.
There is something I do want to talk about. Is that Sir Action Slacks and I have done a series, or we're starting to do a series called GTA Cops, where we kind of just dress up as cops in GTA and we go around and we interact with people and see how it goes. And if you guys want to see that, make sure you check it out. It's the first. This is something I forgot about, but I'm going to go and plug it now. This
Absolutely.
is the first. The first video is up on Sir Action Slacks' YouTube. Just search GTA Cops if you want. Or you could just search Sir Action Slacks and find it on YouTube. And I would highly recommend you check it out. It's a lot of fun.
We had a lot of fun filming it. Ridiculously fun. Just that.
Yeah,
you had me at me and Slacks GTA Cops. I was sold.
Yeah. Oh, man, I'm so grateful for Sir Action Slacks. Honestly, like, he's one of my favorite people in the world now. I'm like, the fact that I get to hang out with him and be creative with him to me is kind of insane. A lot of the videos that Moonduck has done has been from Sir Action Slacks, obviously.
Yeah.
But sometimes we get a chance to make our own videos, and I've done about two now, two videos with I'll write the video and then Slacks will end up directing it and I'll act it or something like that. And it feels like a really good combination, of just like me and him and then the rest of the Moonduck crew kind of like being creative.
Is there
He's just one of the funniest people too.
Oh yeah, but is there any other way? I mean, do you find yourself playing like the straight man to his oddball? You know what I mean? There's always that straight man in any good comedy bit. I find it hard to believe that Sir Action Slacks has ever played the straight man.
The straight man, yeah. I think I do my best with it, but I think I'm kind of as odd as he is. I know that sounds ridiculous, but if you meet Sir Action Slacks in real life, I think if you were to look at us and talk to both of us and get to know both of us, I think you'd think Slacks is kind of normal in comparison to me. If you get to know me, okay. I'm not trying to like hype myself up or anything, but like, I don't know. I feel like I'm just starting to get my persona that I have in real life to online, which is where the whole Mautism thing comes with. Like that idea of just me being a silly dumbass is like, like that whole Mautism thing is like, I'm starting to really, I've been embracing it. It's just kind of, it's pretty funny because like that kind of stuff happens to me in real life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel like somebody described it to me this way at the wedding, and my brother I think is a lot like Larry David, and if my brother's Larry David, then I'm like the younger brother of Larry David. I feel like we have these weird, awkward situations where we just get ourselves into like weird situations. It's pretty funny.
So speaking of Moonduck, it was a little before TI6 that you ended up kind of officially signing on with Moonduck, or was it? Because I remember Android
before TI5.
Oh, okay. Oh, wow. Okay.
It's been a while.
I guess I remember Android, or maybe what I'm thinking was Android was saying that you guys had picked out like the house while you were at TI6.
Yep.
Maybe that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, the house was definitely picked out at TI6. I officially joined Moonduck in essentially at TI5 when we were getting it together. Andrew and Shannon came up to me and were like, "Hey, do you want to be a part of this?" And I was like, "Yes, absolutely, I do." So that was when I was a part of it. We had a couple of tournaments. We did a lot of like Canada Cup and other stuff at the time. We didn't have any really big tournaments. We did Captain's Draft, and then we also did Elimination Mode. We started doing that. But I feel like we've really rounded out our lineup, especially now that we've got Andy, we've got Trent. Trent has come a long way too. I mean, he's been one of my favorite people to cast with. He's funny. We like the same stuff in terms of like we both like hockey. He's Canadian. He's a good old boy. We like hanging out with each other. So his addition alongside Andy was fantastic. And it's been quite the experience, honestly. Like I never thought I would move to a house with these guys. And it's been one of the most enjoyable things I've ever had in my life. So,
I mean, you guys are just producing a ton of content out of that house too, and it's all impressive stuff. It's
honestly, we could do more. We have a lot of free time, to be honest with you. Like, we're getting set up for our next couple of tournaments. There's other like tier 2, tier 3 tournaments that we have to cast occasionally. Like I'm doing some SCA tournaments tonight alongside Trent, I believe. I mean, I'm always happy when we get our own stuff going. And it's always very, very exciting.
Yeah, how was elimination mode? I saw you up there on the, I guess I'd call it a panel. I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to. Yeah, we get some weird panels from time to time, but elimination mode is I think the highlight for everybody when it comes to Moonduck, because we, it's a lot of fun. We don't have to act in a certain way to please certain like tournament organizers or sponsors. A lot of the time we could just be us, which again I'm still kind of figuring out, and I think a lot of the Moonduckers have already gotten a good grasp on. But it's a lot of fun because as much fun as we're having on camera with like me, Slacks, or not even me, but Grant, Slacks, like Andrew and Shannon and Trent, like that's how much fun they're actually having in real life too. So that enjoyment comes, like it shows, like that real life enjoyment is able to just kind of come across the camera. And that's why Moonduck has had so much success recently, because of those personalities. And I think we're only getting better as we progress. And like I said, EM is like the pinnacle of that. It's a fun game mode. We can have a lot of fun. We can kind of be ourselves. We get to do crazy stuff. There's always just some crazy stuff going on. And EM mode is definitely where it's at. But we have some other ideas that are coming down the woodwork that I think might be even better.
I look forward to hearing about it. Anything up on the horizon you can kind of tease us with that you guys are going to be casting or getting involved with that we can let the audience know about?
I don't think I could say anything based off of our own stuff. But I could tell you that we're really trying to plan for the future in terms of what we can provide everybody in terms of another tournament. Obviously, getting another EM set up, another CD, getting another Captain's Draft getting set up wouldn't be a bad idea. But a lot of it is right now we have What the Duck, which is essentially our podcast that Andrew hosts and everybody gets a part of. And we try to do that as much as we can, usually once a week usually. Then we have, what I should also mention is every Tuesday night, guys, around 4 p.m. or 5 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Eastern, we do a Moonduck game night where we play a bunch of different games. We actually did a Moonduck game night yesterday. I'm the host for that. It's kind of my project to take care of. And we kind of just decide what we want to play. It's a lot of Secret Hitler. Next week, we're going to play, I think, H1Z1 King of the Kill, I believe. So we're going to have that going for us. So that's kind of what I'm sort of doing. And then alongside that, we have different tournaments, different tier 2 tournaments that we do every so often. I mean, honestly, like you gotta keep looking at the Moonduck Twitter and see what is coming in next, and also the Twitter of everybody else. Yeah,
you guys. I mean, you guys are active all the time. There's always something going on, it seems like. So
yeah, we try to be.
All right, so I'm gonna close this out by the way I do often with folks who have been finding success making Dota content in particular, and that is I know that there are people that listen to the show and that are on the verge of getting into content creation. They want to make some type of content. They want to get into casting. What would be the best advice that you think you could give to somebody who's looking to get into that kind of content creation?
I think first of all it's tough. I think first of all is to be yourself. Don't kind of fit a mold that you think a caster or a content creator might be, and don't try to be that, because again, that person is already that type of caster or content creator. You should be unique and just get your own thing going for you, because that's when people really love you. And that's what Slack said. He became unique and became such a figure because of who he is, and he didn't have to pretend to be anybody else. The other thing is, if you're becoming a caster, especially if you get offered to do tournaments that aren't paying you but are still like, they're pretty good teams and they could turn out to be really good VODs, don't ever turn them down until you, like, I would say just don't ever turn down a cast. This was the idea that I operated under. Whenever somebody offered me a cast, I just said yes. It didn't matter what time or when it was. I went full force doing it as much and as often as I could until I finally started making some serious money, and I got offers from other tournament organizers, and I realized, okay, I have to take breaks and stuff like that. And to this day, even if it doesn't pay well, I still try to do as many tournaments as I can and do as many casts as I can. So don't ever say no when it comes to casting or something like that. The worst you could say is, let me think about it. And if you really have something going on or you have to say no, then that's fine. But make sure you at least think about casting as much as you possibly can. That's the idea that I operated under, and it seemed to work out for me pretty well. So that's the biggest advice I can give.
Yeah. So do you miss being back home, or it's got to be too much fun being in Colorado? Right?
Not at all. I love it here. I mean, I love my parents and I love my brother and my family, but it's first of all, the weather is 10 times better here.
Yes.
And secondly, I have so much fun in this house. It's incredible, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
I can't really complain at all.
Well, that's great. I thanks so much for coming by and talking with us. I love every chance we get to talk to some of the folks from Moonduck, and in particular you've always been a big supporter, big help for us here at DotP. We truly appreciate it. And if you guys want to find Maut, I strongly encourage you go follow him on Twitter. He is at Maut Dota. That's MautDota at Maut Dota. You can check out stuff that's going on over at Moonduck TV, and of course you can always follow the website moonduck.tv. and scope it out, because you never know what these guys are gonna be up to. All sorts of cool, crazy stuff. I will have to tune in and see Secret Hitler, because I have no idea how to play.
Check out the
Secret
YouTube
Hitler.
video, man. Let me just say, the first game from last night, which is the 321 March 21st game. Just search Moonduck Game Night Secret Hitler. The first game of that is a pretty good game for me. So I would definitely, if you're interested, check it out. It's a lot of fun. And also, we always have room for more people. So if you're on at that point and you have Tabletop Simulator, people can stop by if they want, head into the chat and say, hey, listen, I'm free. We'll grab people if we can.
That's awesome. Well, thanks for everything you guys do and all the good work you're doing and the engagement you guys have with the community. It's awesome. We thoroughly, Roland and I both thoroughly enjoyed watching Elimination Mode. It got me through my workday a couple of days, so
that's awesome.
That was much appreciated. And yeah, just thanks for hopping by and being so cool to sit down and do this interview with us. We look forward to having you guys back.
Yeah, thanks for having me again. You guys have really, I love coming on here and talking to both of you and just being a part of the Defense of the Patients community. Make sure you guys, if you're listening, just because you like me, make sure you guys check out the rest of these guys and their podcasts and stuff like that. Please check them out. And again, thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. If you guys want to find more of us, we are at defenseofthepatients.com. That new website is rolling out here shortly. I'm looking at the preview of it. I think we're going to send out a staging link to all of the patrons. If you're supporting the show at patreon.com/defenseofthepatients, let everybody get a sneak peek of what's to come. We're working on incorporating a storefront so we can finally sell .p t-shirts, and me and Roland don't have to ship them out personally, because it turns out when we have to do it, we don't. So it will be a lot easier having some third party actually manage that for us. So all that's in store. You can follow us on Twitter at .p_show. And I think that's all the pertinent plugs. Oh, discord.gg/.p if you want to join us on Discord. There's always a ton of folks there to play, and you can find great people to party up with and play a good Dota game with. So, all right, that's going to do it. Maut, thanks again.
Thank you for having me, man.
And until next time, this is Cyphus for Maut saying good luck and Godspeed.